Good evening, I'm Lawrence O'Donnell, and tonight I have to tell you something I did not expect to say just a few weeks ago. Mr. Trump is in far deeper trouble than even I anticipated, and that's saying a lot because we've seen him sink into scandals, legal jeopardy, and political chaos before. But this moment is different. Donald Trump's legal peril is no longer a prediction, it is a present reality, and it is far more serious than even his critics had imagined. For years, we have seen him skate past scandals, shielded by money, influence, and a base of unwavering supporters. But what is unfolding now is fundamentally different. Prosecutors are not relying on rumors, political spin, or media speculation. They are building their case on sworn testimony, documented evidence, and verifiable facts that place Donald Trump at the center of multiple overlapping investigations. And that is why his situation is more dangerous than ever before. The hook here is simple: when the evidence speaks louder than the excuses, even the loudest voice in politics cannot drown it out. Every indictment, every filing, every witness statement is a reminder that Trump is not simply in the middle of a political storm. He is standing at the heart of a legal reckoning. These are not minor infractions. These are not the business disputes of a failed casino mogul or the spin of a real estate deal gone sour. These are criminal investigations tied to the highest levels of power, corruption, and an attempt to defy the laws of the nation he once swore to uphold. What makes this moment unprecedented is the depth of cooperation prosecutors are receiving from insiders who once protected him. Former aides, campaign staffers, and even trusted lawyers are now testifying under oath, delivering details that Trump cannot control, cannot spin, and cannot silence. Think about that. The very people who once defended him on television, drafted his legal strategies, or helped manage his political ambitions are now speaking directly to investigators. They are not pundits, they are witnesses. And their accounts are backed by documents, phone records, emails, and financial transactions that paint a picture Trump cannot erase. Every revelation adds another crack to the armor he has worn for so long. When prosecutors present sworn testimony that aligns with written evidence, juries listen. And when juries listen, verdicts follow. Trump knows this. That is why we see his desperation growing with every passing week. He lashes out in speeches. He blames judges. He threatens prosecutors. But beneath all of that noise is one unmistakable truth. The legal peril surrounding him is real. It is tightening, and it is coming from every direction. Here's the hook you cannot ignore. For the first time in his long public life, Donald Trump does not control the narrative. In politics, he could bend the truth, attack opponents, and change the conversation. In the courtroom, none of that matters. Evidence has no loyalty. Facts do not bend to polling numbers. And judges do not care about campaign rallies. The courtroom is a place where power, celebrity, and wealth offer little protection, and Trump is finding that out in real time. The scale of this danger is staggering. He faces charges that could not only end his political career, but strip him of the very freedom he has taken for granted. Fraud, obstruction, conspiracy, incitement, these are not trivial allegations. They are felonies that carry real penalties. And unlike past scandals, these charges are not just about money or image. They cut directly into the core of democracy and the rule of law. Attempting to overturn an election, obstructing justice, manipulating institutions of government, these are crimes that strike at the very foundation of the United States. What should terrify Trump most is not the headlines, but the paper trail, the bank records, the phone logs, the emails, the testimony of people who were in the room when decisions were made. Those are not things you can wave away with a press release. Those are not things you can discredit with a nickname. That is the language of the law, and it speaks louder than any campaign speech ever could. So here is where we stand. Donald Trump's legal peril is real, it is immediate, and it is far more dangerous than the political theater that surrounds him. The evidence against him is no longer theoretical. It is on the record, it is sworn, and it is powerful. He may still command rallies, he may still dominate headlines, but in the cold, unflinching light of the courtroom, he is just another defendant facing the truth. And that truth, for Donald Trump, is proving to be his greatest enemy. Donald Trump has always believed that time was his greatest weapon. For decades, he has used delay as a shield, stretching out lawsuits, exhausting opponents, and bearing accountability under endless appeals and procedural maneuvers. But this time, the clock is not working in his favor. His delay tactics are failing, and with every failed motion, every rejected appeal, every judge who says no more, Trump finds himself staring at something he has long feared, but never truly faced the inevitability of justice. The hook here is undeniable. When a man who has lived his entire life believing he can run out the clock suddenly discovers that the clock is running out on him, the story changes. For years, Trump's strategy has been simple: stall, deny, delay, distract. But federal prosecutors, state attorneys general, and judges across jurisdictions are no longer tolerating the games. They have seen the patterns, they know the playbook, and they are shutting it down. In New York, in Georgia, in Washington, and beyond, Trump's legal maneuvers are being treated for what they are: desperate attempts to avoid the day he must answer for his actions. Every time a judge rejects his request for more time, the public sees something extraordinary: the erosion of the very tool Trump has relied on to avoid consequences. He is watching his old methods collapse in courtrooms where procedure is sacred and excuses are meaningless. Judges are not swayed by his political rallies. Prosecutors are not intimidated by his tweets. Time, once his shield, is now becoming his enemy, and the closer he gets to trial dates, the more his panic shows. Think about the hook of this moment: a man who once sat in the Oval Office, wielding the full power of the presidency, is now reduced to filing endless motions just to buy himself a few extra days. That image tells you everything. The tactics that once bought him freedom, the delays that once exhausted smaller opponents, no longer work when the opponent is the justice system itself. Unlike political rivals, the law does not fatigue. Unlike business partners, the courts cannot be bullied into surrender. The danger for Trump is that every failed attempt to stall only strengthens the perception that he is cornered. Prosecutors seize on those failures to press forward faster. Judges, growing tired of frivolous filings, begin to set stricter deadlines. And the public, watching from the outside, sees not a strong leader under attack, but a defendant running out of options. That shift in perception is devastating. The man who once branded himself as untouchable now looks weak, scrambling, and afraid of what awaits when time finally runs out. There is another hook that makes this moment so powerful. Trump's supporters may cheer his bravado at rallies, but in the courtroom, none of that matters. His lawyers cannot delay the inevitable forever. Discovery will proceed, witnesses will testify, evidence will be presented, and trials will come. That inevitability is why delay matters so much to Trump. He knows that once he enters that courtroom, the myth of his invincibility evaporates. He becomes just another defendant bound by the rules, stripped of the showmanship, and forced to face facts he cannot spin. What is unfolding now is a race against the calendar, and Trump is losing it. Every denied motion inches him closer to trial dates that will define his legacy not as a politician, but as a criminal defendant. Every day that passes brings prosecutors more time to sharpen their arguments, line up their witnesses, and prepare for the fight ahead. Trump's delays are not slowing the process, they are exposing his fear of it. And so here we are: Donald Trump, the master of delay, the man who has run out the clock his entire life, is suddenly finding that the clock is no longer his to control. Judges are moving faster. Prosecutors are moving stronger. The legal system is closing in, and the old tricks no longer work. That is the hook that defines this chapter of his story. The staller has run out of time, and the law has finally caught up to him. Donald Trump built his public life on the illusion of loyalty. He surrounded himself with people who would praise him, defend him, and sacrifice their reputations to protect his image. For years it worked. Allies repeated his talking points, lawyers carried out his strategies, and aides took the fall for his mistakes. But today, that shield of loyalty is shattering. The insiders who once defended him are now turning on him, speaking under oath, cooperating with prosecutors, and exposing the truths he has fought so hard to conceal. Here is the hook that cannot be ignored. The walls around Trump are not being breached by his enemies, they are collapsing from within. The voices delivering the most damaging testimony are not Democrats, not journalists, not critics. They are his own people. His former attorneys, his campaign officials, his White House staff. These are the individuals who sat in the meetings, drafted the memos, and carried out the orders. And when they speak in court, their words carry a weight that even Trump cannot dismiss as partisan attacks. Every insider who flips, every witness who testifies, chips away at the myth of Trump's unshakable hold on those around him. Loyalty, it turns out, has an expiration date when the cost becomes criminal charges or prison time. Prosecutors understand this, and they are using it to devastating effect. They don't need political commentary, they need facts. And those facts are being delivered by the very people who once swore to protect Trump at all costs. That is the power of insider testimony. It cuts through the noise, it dismantles the spin, and it reveals the unvarnished reality. Think about the image this creates. A man who once prided himself on absolute control is now at the mercy of former allies who are telling prosecutors what really happened behind closed doors. His lawyers, once bound to him by confidentiality, are now testifying about crimes committed in their presence. His campaign operatives, who once helped him win power, are now describing how that power was abused. Even members of his administration, who defended him on television day after day, are sitting in deposition rooms revealing the very secrets they once hid. This is not betrayal in the political sense, it is survival in the legal sense. And the courts know how to tell the difference. Here's another hook. Every new defection sends a message to the remaining loyalists. The tide is turning, and it is safer to speak than to stay silent. That ripple effect is devastating for Trump. It means the circle of loyalty shrinks every week. It means that silence, once his strongest weapon, is breaking apart. And it means that prosecutors are not just investigating him, they are building their case with the testimony of people who were closest to him. The impact of these defections goes beyond the courtroom. Politically, they strip Trump of his image as a leader who commands total devotion. The more his allies cooperate, the weaker his hold on the narrative becomes. Supporters at rallies may still cheer his defiance, but they cannot erase the fact that in legal documents and sworn testimony, his inner circle is dismantling his defense piece by piece. Every page of evidence signed by a former loyalist carries a power no slogan can erase. This is the paradox. Trump now faces. The loyalty he demanded for so long is the very thing unraveling his defense. Because those who were closest to him were also closest to the misconduct. And when faced with the choice between protecting Trump or protecting themselves, they are choosing themselves. The prosecutors don't have to dig for leaks anymore. The leaks are coming from the people who used to hold the buckets. So the story is this: Trump is not just losing in courtrooms, he is losing the loyalty war that once defined him. His insiders are turning, his allies are testifying, and the walls are collapsing from the inside out. That is why his legal peril is deeper than ever before. Because when the people who built the fortress start tearing it down, there is nowhere left to hide. Donald Trump is not just running for president again. He is running for survival. The stakes in this campaign are unlike any in American history, because for Trump, the ballot box is not just about power. It is about freedom. He knows that the courtroom and the campaign trail are moving toward him at the same time, and the outcome of one will decide the fate of the other. That reality makes this political season not only unprecedented, but also deeply dangerous, because Trump's fight is not simply about winning votes. It is about escaping accountability. Here is the hook. Every rally speech, every fundraising email, every social media post from Trump is not just politics as usual. It is a cry for protection. He is telling his supporters that his battle is their battle, when in fact, it is his personal legal struggle dressed up as a political cause. He is transforming indictments into campaign slogans, turning criminal charges into applause lines, and trying to convince millions of Americans that his freedom is somehow tied to their future. It is one of the most audacious strategies in modern politics to merge personal survival with national destiny. And it reveals just how desperate his situation has become. The truth is stark. If Donald Trump loses in court, his political career is over. If he loses in court badly enough, his own freedom could be taken away. No former president has ever faced that kind of jeopardy. And that is why his campaign is no longer about policies, no longer about ideas, no longer even about winning an election in the traditional sense. It is about building a shield made of votes, influence, and pressure that he hopes can be strong enough to protect him from the full weight of the law. Think about the image of a man who once held the most powerful office in the world, now running not to lead but to escape. That is the hook at the heart of this story. Trump is not offering solutions to America's problems. He is offering himself as a victim, asking voters to save him from consequences he brought upon himself. He is trying to turn the presidency into a get-out-of-jail-free card, a position that places him above accountability. But the courts do not see it that way, And the prosecutors pressing forward are not stopping to consider his campaign calendar. This collision between politics and prosecution creates a new kind of pressure Trump has never faced before. On one hand, he must appear strong to his supporters, a fighter who never backs down. On the other, he knows that behind closed doors, judges and prosecutors are setting deadlines, collecting testimony, and preparing cases that could undo him completely. Every campaign stop becomes theater. Every courtroom appearance becomes reality. And the gap between the performance and the truth is widening with every passing week. There is another hook that defines this moment. Trump's freedom depends on convincing others that his cause is theirs, but his allies know the truth. They know the investigations are not about them. They know the indictments are not about the future of America. They are about him. And slowly, as insiders cooperate with prosecutors and allies grow wary of defending him, that shield he is trying to build looks weaker and weaker. The political stakes remain enormous, but the legal stakes are existential. He is not just trying to win power, he is trying to avoid losing everything. And that desperation is visible. It is visible in the way he attacks prosecutors personally, as though smearing them on stage could erase the evidence in their files. It is visible in the way he frames every indictment as a political attack, hoping to transform legal charges into campaign fuel. It is visible in the way he escalates his rhetoric, trying to bind his fate to the fate of the country, as though America's survival depends on his own. Donald Trump's campaign is a courtroom strategy disguised as a political movement. And that is why it is unlike anything we have seen before. For him, the choice is not between victory and defeat. It is between freedom and accountability. And the fact that he is trying to merge those two battles into one tells us exactly how deep his fear has become. The hook is simple and devastating. The man who once sought the presidency for power is now seeking it for protection, and he knows that without it, his future may not be measured in elections, but in prison sentences. Every time Donald Trump shouts about a witch hunt, he believes he is winning the argument. He thinks those two words are strong enough to erase indictments, dismiss sworn testimony, and rewrite the facts. But here is the truth, and it is a hook too sharp to ignore. Every time Trump screams, witch hunt, he is not projecting strength, he is confessing fear. The louder the cry, the deeper the panic. And now that old line, once so effective with his supporters, is beginning to sound hollow even to them. When Trump first deployed the witch hunt defense, it resonated with his base because it allowed them to see him as a victim, a man unfairly targeted because of his fight for them. It was simple, emotional, and easy to repeat. But as the evidence has piled up, as indictments have become convictions, and as loyalists have turned into cooperating witnesses, the phrase no longer carries the same punch. A slogan cannot erase bank records, a rally chant cannot silence sworn testimony, and a bumper sticker phrase cannot stop a courtroom from presenting the facts. The hook is this: repetition without credibility becomes weakness, not strength. Trump has used witch hunt so many times in so many contexts that it no longer sounds like a defense, it sounds like a reflex. And the public knows it. You cannot cry witch hunt over hush money payments, then cry witch hunt over election interference, then cry witch hunt over classified documents, and still expect the phrase to have the same power. It becomes background noise, the sound of a man who has no better argument left. What makes this unraveling so powerful is that the more Trump relies on the phrase, the more it reveals his isolation. He once had surrogates who could amplify his message and make it sound credible. But now, many of those surrogates are testifying against him. They are not echoing witch hunt in courtrooms, they are providing evidence. That contrast, the empty cry of a slogan on one side and the solid weight of sworn testimony on the other, exposes Trump's weakness in a way nothing else could. There is another hook at play here. When a defense becomes predictable, it loses its force. Everyone now knows that no matter the charge, Trump will call it a witch hunt. That predictability robs the phrase of its impact. It no longer surprises, no longer shakes the conversation, no longer carries shock value. It is just noise, and in the arena of law, noise has no power. Judges don't care. Juries don't care. Prosecutors don't care. The phrase is useless where it matters most. This leaves Trump trapped in a cycle of diminishing returns. He cannot abandon the slogan because it is all he has. But every time he uses it, he reminds the public that he has nothing else to offer. That is the paradox of his position. The more he clings to the witch hunt, narrative, the more obvious it becomes that the evidence against him is real, substantial, and impossible to explain away. And here is where the political danger grows. His base may still chant the phrase at rallies, but beyond that circle, voters are tiring of the excuse. They see the court filings, they see the convictions, they see the insiders testifying, and they understand that not everything can be a conspiracy. At some point, people recognize the difference between persecution and prosecution. And Trump, whether he admits it or not, is facing the latter. So the story is this: the witch hunt. Defense, once Trump's sharpest weapon, has dulled into a hollow cry. It exposes his fear more than it shields him. It reveals weakness more than it demonstrates strength. And it shows a man trapped in his own rhetoric, unable to escape the cycle he created. The hook is as clear as ever. Every time Trump says, "witch hunt," what the public hears is, "I am cornered." And in the world of politics and law, there is nothing more dangerous than a man who knows he is running out of defenses. The rule of law is being tested in America in a way it has never been tested before. Donald Trump's legal troubles are not just about him. They are about the very principle that no one, not even a former president, is above the law. That phrase has been repeated countless times in courtrooms, classrooms, and speeches. But now it is no longer just a noble idea. It is a question being answered in real time, with Trump's fate serving as the test case for whether the rule of law in this country is strong enough to withstand the weight of his defiance. Here is the hook. The outcome of these cases is not simply about Donald Trump's guilt or innocence. It is about whether the United States is still a nation of laws or whether the system can be bent by power, wealth, and celebrity. Every filing, every hearing, every ruling becomes more than just a step in one man's prosecution. It becomes a signal to the country and to the world about what kind of democracy America truly is. If Trump can escape accountability because of who he is, then the phrase "no one is above the law" becomes meaningless. And if it becomes meaningless, the foundation of the republic weakens. The drama of this moment is that the system itself is on trial. Judges, juries, prosecutors, and even the public are playing a part in deciding whether the ideals written in the Constitution can stand against the reality of a former president who has built his career on testing limits, breaking norms, and pushing boundaries. For decades, Trump has treated rules as obstacles to be bent or broken, whether in business, politics, or government. But now, the rules he dismissed are the very ones that may decide his freedom. That irony, that collision between a lifetime of defiance and the immovable structure of the law, is the heart of the story. The hook is sharper still when you consider the global stage. Around the world, democracies are watching. Authoritarians are watching. Allies are watching. They are asking, does America truly hold its leaders accountable, or does power grant immunity? The answer will ripple far beyond Trump. It will shape how the next president, the next senator, the next business mogul views the law. If Trump is treated as untouchable, others will learn the same lesson. If he is held to account, the system proves its strength. There is also the human element. Ordinary Americans who face consequences for breaking laws are watching too. They know what happens when they commit fraud, obstruct justice, or tamper with evidence. They know there is no special pass for them. And they are asking, rightly, why it should be any different for a man who once held the highest office in the land. That question adds fuel to the urgency of this moment. Equal justice is not a slogan. It is the cornerstone of legitimacy in a democracy. If people lose faith in that, if they believe there are two systems of justice, one for the powerful and one for everyone else, the damage may be irreversible. This is why every ruling against Trump's delay tactics, every order compelling testimony, every decision that says you must face trial matters so deeply. It is not just another legal setback for him. It is a victory for the principle that the law cannot be bent indefinitely to serve one man. The system is speaking slowly but surely. With clarity, you will be held accountable. And here lies the final hook. Donald Trump's story may end up being remembered less for his presidency than for the test he created for American justice. His defiance, his attacks on institutions, his cries of persecution, all of it has forced the rule of law to stand up and prove its strength. If the courts succeed, history will say that even at its most divided, America remained a nation of laws. If they fail, history will say the opposite. And that choice right now is unfolding before our eyes in the case of one man who believed he was untouchable and a system determined to prove otherwise. So tonight, when I tell you Mr. Trump is in far deeper trouble than I anticipated. I say it with the full weight of the facts, the evidence, and the law. His legal reckoning is no longer a question of if, it is only a question of when. And that, my friends, is the last word.